for joining the UA Press as it celebrates Black History Month with its authors and the world. We are certain that you will be fascinated by what the authors have to share about the history and heritage of the Caribbean. Please stay tuned between now and 2 p.m. for the great lineup of authors like William Lawrence, Anna Perkins, Maureen Warner Lewis, and Erna Brodborough. Please visit our Facebook page www.facebook.com/UWI Press for information on our special 50% discount on the titles featured today. Thank you once again for joining the UA Press and its authors for Black History Month. We now present Dr. William Lawrence being interviewed by Dr. Noel Cowell.
And on the publication of, this is your first book, right?
Thank you. Yes, it's my first.
Excellent. And really, you know, first of all, it really looks nice. I really like the way it looks and so on. And, you know, the little I know, it suggests that it is a book that's going to make a major contribution, but I want to see if you can confirm that. We started off by, we're doing this thing during Black History Month, and it was introduced, you know, in that kind of frame. But this is really not a book about history, it's a book about future.
Well, I'll tell you, the book is about the history, the present, and the future, and it's very timely that it's Black History Month, because as you know, we have a lot to celebrate, we have a lot to look forward to, and the book makes a contribution in the space. Yeah. I should say that we all know the vital role that entrepreneurship plays in the upliftment of Black people, general and others. And certainly we know that a lot of the successes that economies have all over the world arises from the economic value created from entrepreneurship. So the book certainly helps to not only rebuild economic value, it helps to drive the notion that using effective and efficient entrepreneurship, you can create better lives for people.
And it is something of significance for this region, where we have a majority ethnicity in most countries.
I tell you, that is
of Black people.
Oh yes, you know, it's just in 2013 that the Inter-American Development Bank noted that the Caribbean economies have lost ground over the past 30 years in terms of economic development compared to other developing states. The Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, being very Jamaican specific since 2005, have said, yes, it is true that Jamaica has one of the highest rates of business startups in the world. But we also have a very high rate of business closures, and we have exalted academia, the private and public sectors, to do something about the closures. And I hope my book makes a contribution.
Well, let's step back a little bit with that. I mean, I know you've been introduced, and I look at the profile at the back of this book, and it describes you as a management consultant and a founding director of professional services at the University of the West Indies. I know about that. That you're a member of the Turnaround Management Association, and you have helped to rescue several Jamaican enterprises from losses and financial distress. Yes. What it doesn't tell us anything about is your academic pedigree. And we know you as a scholar, and you teach at the university, in one school of business, to PhD students. You supervise PhD students, you direct research programs. You have a traditional scholarship, you have a whole career in scholarship. Tell us a little bit about that part of it.
Well, you know, I started my professional life, Noel, as an industrial engineer. Spent 10 years in engineering.
Where did you study?
Certainly I did my first degree here in applied physics at University of the West Indies, then went on to the postgraduate diploma in industrial engineering, and then switched to business, went to the Holt International Business School under scholarship from the US government to do the business administration, and then finally ended up doing my doctorate at Nova Southeastern while being a group general manager. So I've made the transition from being an engineer into business, into adjunct teaching and consulting, and I'm happy to say I've been here at the university for the past 6 years. What is quite clear along the way, along the journey, is that productivity remains a big problem. And that is what really has been the entire focus of what I'm doing.
Okay. So this book then, I am not sure if the way the blurb is set up, the profile is set up, suggests that you're directing it purely at practitioners, or is it at both?
It really is at both, because...
Okay, well, tell me first of all about how a practitioner might find a book like this useful.
You know, practitioners, like academics, strive to solve problems, but they do so in complementary but different ways. The practitioner solves a problem by doing things, typically by executing a process. So, you know, you take some resources, you try to add value from combining these resources together. The book provides a roadmap that practitioners can use to rescue any viable commercial entity from losses and financial distress. And I think we all know...
There is that by determining whether or not it is viable.
That's right. And we all know that if your productivity levels are low in commerce, losses and financial distress are the sad consequences that precedes failure. So the book is one of the few, if not the first, to provide a user-friendly set of decision pathways. It prescribes what to do to fit each situation, because when you are rescuing businesses, it's not one size fits all.
So I'm looking at page 15. Is this the sort of...
oh yes, that's the high-level roadmap.
Yes. Now, would a practitioner be able to take this book and use it by themselves, or would they need the support of a consultant, an academic? What is your view about that?
My view is that the book will help the practitioner well along the road in a self-help kind of mode. Yes, there are going to be certain nuances and times when you need additional support, but the book will certainly point you in that direction if and when required.
And then you can make the decision.
That's right.
Right. So, you know, we have, of course, in virtually all countries, but certainly in the Caribbean, the vast majority of our businesses are relatively small.
Yes.
And this would you say that this could be a useful read for the small business practitioner, as well as the practitioner of large businesses? I mean, what market really are we looking at?
Well, yes, the book is certainly rooted in academic scholarship, but geared towards practitioners across all segments. And when I said any commercial enterprise, I don't mean any. The small and medium-sized segment, large corporations, state-owned enterprises, subsidiaries of multinationals, purely local companies. In writing the book, I examined 32 business cases to test the validity of the model across the spectrum that we described. And in
that across a small,
large, right, and also inside recession and outside. And I found, of the 32, that 18 of those companies were able to recover from losses and distress, while 14 did not. All of the 18 companies that recovered conformed to the prescriptions of my model, and all 14 that did not recover deviated from the prescriptions.
But at the time, the prescriptions were not available to them. Was it?
That's right.
I see. But, well, that sounds very interesting. And you know, one of the things that occurs to me is that, you know, in perusing the book and in looking at and listening to you, is that this is a potential export product, and I want to explore that idea with you.
Sure.
Traditionally, economic ideas about business emerge move from north to south.
Right.
This book would appear to hold the potential for business renewal in any kind of setting. how do you react to that? Is that correct?
I think you are correct, and you probably have some additional information not known to many, because already international organizations have in fact embraced the model. I should tell you that before the book was published, back in 2011, the prestigious Institute of Industrial Engineers featured the model as the cover story of their May 2011 edition of Industrial Engineer, geared towards practitioners, and it was the feature article in their conference in Reno, Nevada that year that hosted professionals from all over the world. Also, Turnaround Management Association, who is the premier global institution focusing on corporate renewal, embraced the model, endorsed it in writing, and in fact have taken the model to their members across 17 countries worldwide. So when you look at that, along with the fact that I have some international projects coming up as well, invited by these organizations, you're absolutely correct. It goes beyond the shores.
Well, I didn't know that, but I congratulate you on that. And it seems to me that this is the kind of thing that certainly that our universities need to do. I want to ask you before we go any further though. You said it was rooted in scholarship.
Yes.
And one would expect that, given what I know of your background. Could you give us a brief sense of the kind of scholarship that informs this work? Because you're talking about really very practical things. The
Yes.
business of rescuing a company that's about to die.
Yes.
A business which is about to
Yes.
die. Give me a sense of the scholarship that informs it.
Yeah, no, well, again, that's certainly something that's worthy of some discussion, because, as I mentioned, academics solve problems by answering research questions. And whereas I started my doctoral work looking at productivity, I was delighted to discover that business turnaround is a domain within the academic field of strategic management back then. And the seminal work in the area was done by some persons, Dan Shendel, Gary Patton, and they posed the first formal academic question in the field in the Journal of Economics and Business in 1976, page 236, to show you how I know it quite well.
Yeah.
And they asked a question that triggered the entire academic pursuit. They asked, why are some firms able to break out of stagnating or declining performance patterns? And that has triggered a lot of research, including my own doctoral dissertation. And my book provides the first high-level answer to that question. It integrates more than 4 decades of literature, including my own published scholarly work and the work of others, into a high-level roadmap. And I want to say this, that if you look at the theoretical underpinnings of the model, you'll find general systems theory being reflected, contingency theory, the behavioral theory of the firm, the resource-based view, Porter's model on competitive strategy. So certainly the book is deeply rooted in academic philosophies and theories, but it integrates the fragmented literature over 40 years
But William,
into the work.
you made a remarkable claim, because you've talked about a whole range of theoretical streams of
Yes,
work.
yes,
And you've talked about 40 years of scholarship.
yes.
And you have talked about in practice, and you've talked about scholarship, and you have integrated that into a book that is no more than 100 pages. No, I'm saying to you, let us assume for the moment that you did achieve what you say you achieved. That's a formidable achievement. But my question really is, how you managed to do that? And well, what motivated, first of all, the size of the book? This is not a standard practice in academia. The 90 or almost 100 pages of book, if you include the references.
That's right.
Just over 100.
That's right.
And from the point of view of a practitioner doing business, to be able to distill that, all of that wisdom into one small package like this, has to be something of value. But tell me, I mean,
I certainly will.
What motivated the size?
You know, it was a challenge to get the size down, Noel, because the original manuscript was just under 400 pages.
Really?
But I will, but I will tell you this.
Typical academic.
I will tell you this much. I encountered a book published by Harvard Business School Press
Right.
on turnaround in 2001 with contributors such as Jim Collins and Gary Hamel, two of the leading strategic thinkers in modern times. And that book was about the same size. And
did that sell well?
It was. It's one of the bestsellers that Harvard has, with repeated requests published in several languages. And when I listen to these stalwarts talk about what works, because they're not only accomplished academics, they're also globally respected consultants. They made the point that a book must be first about value, not volume. They also make the point that whereas all academics strive to be effective in creating value from the book, when it comes to delivering that value for practitioners, the book must also be efficient. And they lamented the fact that too many books sit on shelves because the volume becomes prohibitive.
Yes.
So it's against that backdrop, and I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story. Linda Speth, who has become my close friend, the leader of UA Press. When I met her first, I placed this book from Harvard on the table and said I would like my book to be like that. And she said to me, are you prepared to do what it takes?
To bring it down to that.
It took 5 years.
And she understood the importance of the objective that you had.
Right.
And supported it.
That's right. So it took 5 years of writing and rewriting, getting colleagues in the field to review it, and then going through the very high quality process that UA Press has. But I'm pleased to say I am happy with the product, and the response so far from the main target audience, the private sector, has been extraordinary.
Sold out already.
Sold out, and there's demand for more. I keep telling persons that they have to go to the nowhere. But it has exceeded my expectations.
Yeah. Tell me something. So this is a book then, clearly, that has, and the title suggested, and all of your discourse suggested, it has, it's focused on business.
Yes.
But I wondered whether or not the kind of work or the kind of thinking, broadly speaking, could also apply to other organizations, because there's a tremendous concern.
Yes.
Across all kinds of organizations, public sector, political parties, non-for-profit, and so on, about change. And we're living in the kind of environment where change becomes absolutely necessary. To what extent would this be useful to people who are in that kind of space?
You know what? That's important. Because when you read a book, in virtually every chapter, you will see that organizational culture is important. Business renewal is first about getting the right culture in place, and by that I mean the right values, because the beliefs, attitudes, and practices of people can either create value or destroy value. And therefore the book speaks to the importance of ensuring that leaders, especially leaders of businesses and other organizations that wish to improve, you work at getting the right culture in place. And many times, getting the right culture as a leader is not so much what you say, is what you do and show by example. Simple things like generating excitement about what you're doing, demonstrating respect and care for others, treating others the way you would like to be treated, providing the right kinds of incentives, not all of which are necessarily monetary incentives. So organizational culture is what I think the book can convey and contribute to the wider relationships.
About strategy and so on.
Right.
Okay. All right. So William, you think we might be able to use it as a textbook as well?
Yes, it's written to be used as a standalone or as a complement. Courses such as entrepreneurship certainly need a book. Strategy, of course, human resources, operations, corporate finance are just a few of the courses that I need, that I think would benefit.
All right, so I'm going to ask you one last question, but I can't let you go without sort of getting a sense of your view about the role of the intellectual in our kind of space. Now, it's been well established in other parts of the world, particularly in the United States.
Yes.
The situation of intellectuals in universities very closely integrated with the areas of their broad interest. So you're, for example, interested in business,
right.
Integration of the business space. If I'm interested in some other field, for example, if I'm interested in poverty, for
right.
example,
right.
social programs, integration with the poor, having that kind of understanding and experience,
right.
and trying out our theories and so on. I really want to get your insight into that. I mean, you have spent a lot of your life essentially as what I would call an activist intellectual.
Yes.
Even though you're not out there planting a political flag. But give me a sense as to how you see the future in relation to that particular aspect of the role of an intellectual and of a university.
You know, I see academic work as one side of the coin. The other side is practice. They reinforce each other. I could never have written this book without going through the academic process, the pursuit of higher education and research, because experience alone could not have answered some of the fundamental questions that I needed to have answered. So academic work and practice reinforce each other. And Noel, being a scholar yourself, you realize, for example, that when we teach research methods, even at the doctoral level, you are teaching about theory and practice. And when you move to test theory, to improve practice through hypotheses and statistical analysis, that is seen as the heights of academic rigor. However, as we all know, especially since the global financial crisis, practice can inform the development of theory. And here is where observations and engaging with the real world also help. So academia and practice are mutually reinforcing. And if we accept that notion,
so you're not into the town and dome separation.
Right. If we accept that notion, then what happens is that it becomes almost automatic that you've got to work together, private sector, public sector, academia, together to resolve these challenges. We've got to look at things not only interdisciplinary, but multidisciplinary. So we've got to collaborate. And certainly, I think the way forward is for more projects in academia and in practice where there is genuine collaboration across disciplines, across functions.
Good. I know I said the last question, but give me one more.
Sure.
From our conversation, I get the distinct impression that somebody as intellectually precocious as yourself must have some other things in the pipeline. Where are you going in terms of scholarship? You told me something about the practice,
right.
National consultancies, local consultancies, and so on. What's the direction of your scholarship at the moment?
You know, I am pleased to say that this notion of academia and practitioners coming together is playing out right now. As you're very well aware, I am currently leading an excellent group of researchers on a program of research for corporate transformation. And it is going very, very well. This program is aimed at coming up with business model options for private sector organizations that are Caribbean-based to improve, to expand regionally, and to essentially do better to lift the region up. And this program of research has already, in its first year just being completed, delivered results that provide new insights. So over the next 12 months to 18 months, a lot of my focus will be on working with this excellent team in the area of corporate transformation, which essentially is germane to business renewal.
So that's both research at the same time as practice?
It certainly is, because you know, the findings from the academic research will immediately inform practice, and the private sector will be taking on board the relevant areas.
Very brilliant. Thank you very much. Congratulations again on your book.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the success.
No, well, it's a pleasure.
Work.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good morning. Welcome once more to our Black History Month Authors Promotion. We now present a conversation with Dr. Anna Perkins, author of our forthcoming book, Quality in Higher Education in the Caribbean. Her interviewer is Professor Marlene Hamilton.
Morning, everyone. In Black History Month, we celebrate the successes of people of African descent. The Caribbean region is strongly shaped by their experiences, successes, and contributions, and the UWI Press has been at the forefront in providing opportunities for Caribbean scholars, including those of African descent, to share their research with the region and indeed the world. This morning we want to introduce another UWI Press publication, one that celebrates the contribution of Caribbean people to the development of higher education. It's entitled Quality in Higher Education in the Caribbean. We are so pleased to welcome the editor-author, Dr. Anna Kasafi Perkins. Now, Anna, may I call you Anna?
Please do.
I have a few questions for you that we need to cover so that our audience get a full appreciation. But before we do, who is Anna Kasafi Perkins?
Anna Kasafi Perkins is a Catholic theologian by training. Currently, she is the Senior Program Officer, Quality Assurance, UWI, and I serve the Mona campus. I'm a researcher, very sort of eclectic in a lot of what I do. So, as you can see, the publication is focused specifically on my area of work, which is quality assurance in higher education.
So, of course, this segues very well into the next question. What is quality assurance?
Well, quality assurance has to do with the set of processes or mechanisms that higher education institutions engage in order to maintain or to assure the quality of the offering that they provide to their stakeholders, in particular their students. And the various ways that quality has been defined. In the higher education landscape, quality is usually defined as fitness for purpose, which looks a bit at, you know, what is that you intend to do and how well are you doing it? And that's what we try to do in ensuring quality.
Is this the same as total quality management that seems to be of the past?
Well, total quality management is usually coming out of the business sphere and focuses a lot on service. So, for example, in the book that we're looking at today, there's a chapter in there by Eduardo Ali that looks at this whole concept of total quality management, looking at it from the service perspective. You know, in higher education, you want to maintain both the academic and the service dimension.
Right, which is not easily done sometimes.
Not easily done, but you need the service dimension to support academics. If we don't have both, then quality will be in question.
In a way, you've already expressed through your response your enthusiasm for the area, but why did you choose to do a book in the whole area on quality in higher education in particular?
It's an underserved area. If you look around the Caribbean region, you won't find any work that's there as a published text that looks in a focused way on quality assurance in higher education. I also thought too that there was so much that we had to celebrate about the work that we have done in the Caribbean in this area, that it would be a missed opportunity not to take it up.
Especially in the context of Black History Month,
Especially
right?
in the context of Black history. So if you look, for example, last year, UCJ, which was the first
What is UCJ?
UCJ is the University Council of Jamaica, and that's the external accrediting body that serves Jamaica. So it's the oldest body in the region that does that kind of work, and it was 25 last year. You know, or look at the fact that we've had institutions that were institutionally accredited from Trinidad and Tobago recently, or CANCAID turns 10 this year. So there's so many.
Sorry, what is CANCAID?
CANCAID, that's the Caribbean network of quality assurance agencies.
Oh, it's
So
good that there is such an agency.
there is such an
Yeah.
agency, and it's very internationally connected. In fact, it's a member of a larger international body that's called INQUAHI, which is the international
Right,
network
version,
of
uh-huh.
So Caribbean people are cutting edge, you know. We're always up there in movement. Don't mistake us. We're there.
And you're there
We
too,
don't
eh?
do- We're trying to be there.
Uh-huh.
We need to celebrate it more. So part
Yes.
of doing this book is to give some promotion of the work that we've been doing and to sort of project into the future too, because higher education is constantly moving and changing and being impacted by different processes and so on. So we want to also project what's going to happen in the future as well and what we need to be responding to.
So tell us a little bit about the contents of the book. You've given us a general overview, but tell us some of the specificities.
There's several areas that we cover. We cover, for example, there's one chapter that's going to look at, or that looks at, financing higher education and how that's linked to quality. Many people never think that financing is directly or in any way linked to quality, but it is, because the way we have moved to structuring or financing of higher education in the Caribbean, implicitly it says that governments will give funding to institutions that are of particular quality. So there's a way that if you're not up to standard and what are the
Right,
markers
yes,
for
yes,
that
yes.
standard, then should you or should you not be funded by the government?
This
So
is somewhat like the British structure, where funding will only go to those who have attained a certain
exactly.
level.
And
So
that's
is
what we want
it,
to
sorry
move.
to cut you, but is the funding specifically of Jamaica, or does it take into account the
It takes into
region?
account, the chapter looks at 3 of the main countries in the region, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica and Barbados.
Oh, good. Uh-huh.
And you know, for example, in Trinidad and Tobago, and this is part of what the author of this particular chapter argues, Trinidad and Tobago is the one of the 3 nations where you can directly see that funding is linked to quality. So an institution cannot get funding from the government if it's not registered or if it's not accredited, while Jamaica and Barbados have not quite moved in that
More
direction yet.
flexibility.
But part of our argument and part of the process is perhaps this is what we need to look at.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds very interesting. Do you think the governments will take you on?
Probably not.
Well,
But
we can
we
hope.
are aiming the book at policymakers, and we would like them to. Seriously, we would like them to.
What about some of the contributors? And you've mentioned 1 or 2 of the areas. You mentioned financing. What about some others?
So that chapter is done by Dr. Kofi Nkrumah Young, who is from UTEC.
UTEC.
He's
Alright.
the VP at UTEC. The chapter that I mentioned before that looked at total quality management is Eduardo Ali, and he's from our Trinidad and Tobago St. Augustine campus of UWI. Then, of course, there's myself servicing the Mona campus, and my piece is on ethics. And this is where
How does that fit in?
it fits in because there's an implicit ethics in quality assurance, because it's about promise keeping, it's about transparency, it's about accountability. And when you look at the external quality management agencies that you have in the region, each of them has values that are embedded in their mission statement and all of that. So they're making promises too. And it's quality assurance too that's going to ensure that the ethics of an organization and the ethics of our